What do you think will be the main highlights to come out of this Congress meeting?
Well, obviously, it's going to be who's going to be the next set of rulers for China, because China is really governed by a 7 to 9 member standing committee of the Communist Party. And one of the key questions is whether or not they will raise the mandatory retirement age such that some of President Xi Jinping's key allies can stay on. And if they are able to stay on, if they change the mandatory retirement age, what will that mean 5 years from now when President Xi is facing mandatory retirement? Will he then be able to stay on and assume an unprecedented third term? That is the big political question that's circulating around China today.
What do you make of the moves that President Xi's government has taken to crack down even more so on VPNs, the social messaging site WhatsApp? This after, Facebook and Twitter have been shut down there now for years, and yet the government talks about openness and seems to be taking, in other ways, going in the opposite direction.
Well, China is actually tightening its grip in terms of what people can read and see over the media, whether it's social media or television and radio. There's a crackdown on human rights activists, on lawyers, on non-government organizations, nonprofit organizations. So there's really becoming a more authoritarian, more rigid, controlling climate within China, all under President Xi Jinping. And yes, they talk about the advent of technology, but it's all got to be controlled by the Chinese government, because the one thing they most want to focus on is the continued efficacy, the power, the authority of the Communist Party.
On that note, what is your take on a recent move by the government to actually take managerial stakes in companies like Tencent, like Weibo?
Again, they're trying to make sure that they have control over what these technology companies are disseminating. They really want to make sure that these for-profit private companies are still supporting, hewing the line of the Communist Party. So we're seeing the growing involvement, entanglement of the Chinese government in many more layers, even in the private sector, especially in the technology area, which is why, for instance, Google, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, many of these things are not even allowed to be accessed by the Chinese people.